It was a quiet Sunday evening, until it wasn't. My father slammed his fist on my kitchen counter so hard my coffee mug jumped and shattered on the floor. His voice roared through the apartment like a war drum, shaking the air with each word. "You selfish little traitor! After everything we've done for you?" His face was red, his eyes blazing with fury. And in the middle of the chaos stood my younger brother, looking at me like I had just stabbed him in the back. No remorse, no embarrassment, just pure entitlement. I had told them no. That was my only crime. I told them that my brother, who had just been evicted from his second apartment in less than a year, wasn't going to crash in mine rent-free. Not again. He didn't have a job, didn't even try to get one. All he did was sleep all day, party all night, and call it figuring things out. And now they expected me to give up my peace, my space, and my sanity, for what? To bail him out again? My mother stood in the doorway, arms folded, lips pressed in a thin line of disappointment. She didn't say much. She never did when Dad went off like this. But her silence was just as loud as his yelling. They both looked at me like I was the problem, as if setting boundaries meant I had betrayed the family. And maybe that's the part that hurt most. Hey there, welcome to HG Reddit Stories. If you've ever been caught between doing what's right for your own well-being and doing what your family expects, even when it's completely unreasonable, then this story might hit home. So let me ask you this. If your sibling mooched off everyone for years, avoided every bit of responsibility, and treated your apartment like a free Airbnb, would you still be expected to sacrifice your peace for them? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you enjoy stories like this, about real people, hard choices, and family drama with serious fallout, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You'll get more HD Reddit stories every week that make you question what loyalty really looks like. Because the truth is, they didn't just want my help. They expected my sacrifice. Growing up, I was the reliable one. The good kid. The one who got straight A's, followed the rules, and cleaned up after my brother's messes, both literal and figurative. My brother Tyler was always different. Charming. Loud. Messy. Reckless. And for some reason, my parents thought that was endearing. He's just finding himself. My mom used to say every time he failed another semester or got kicked out of another job. Boys mature slower. Dad would grunt, sipping beer from the recliner while Tyler blew through every second chance handed to him like they were lottery tickets. Meanwhile, I worked my way through college with a part-time job at a grocery store, then picked up freelance gigs until I landed something steady. I lived frugally, saved religiously, and finally rented a one-bedroom apartment in a decent part of town. It wasn't huge, but it was mine. It was quiet, safe, and clean, everything my childhood home wasn't. I took pride in it. It was the one space in the world that I controlled. Tyler had been spiraling for years, but things hit a low when he got evicted from his last place. He hadn't paid rent in 3 months, and from what I heard, the landlord walked in to find the place trashed. Trash bags piling in the kitchen. Cigarette burns in the carpet. The whole place reeked of weed and body spray. And just like that, Tyler was back at our parents' house, moping on the couch like life had wronged him. Then came the phone call. "Hey, sweetie." Mom's voice chirped like she had news she couldn't wait to share. "So, Tyler's in a bit of a transition right now, and we were thinking it might be a good idea for him to stay with you for a little while. Just until he gets back on his feet." It wasn't a question. It was a setup. I swallowed hard. "No. I can't do that." Silence. Then a clipped. "Why not?" "Because last time he stayed with me, he stole food, broke my coffee table, left the toilet clogged for 2 days, and invited his friends over without asking. He doesn't respect my space. I can't live like that again. You're his brother. Family is supposed to help each other. Help, yes. Enable, no." That was the moment the ground beneath my family ties started to crack. My mom's voice dropped from sweet to sour like someone flipped a switch. "You think you're better than us now? Just because you have a job and a nice apartment? Tyler is struggling, and you're sitting up there with your little desk job acting like you're king of the world. I'm not acting like anything. I'm just protecting what I've built. Click. That was it. No goodbye. No thanks for being honest. Just the cold, sharp sound of being hung up on. The next few days were quiet, until my dad showed up. He didn't call. Didn't text. Just banged on my apartment door like he was a cop with a warrant. I opened it, thinking something was wrong, but he pushed past me like he owned the place. I raised you better than this, he barked, pacing my living room. Your brother's got nowhere to go. And you're too good to help? I stood there, gripping the back of a chair to ground myself. He had places to go. He'd burned every single one. Including mine. That's when he lunged, fist pounding on the countertop, chest puffed like he was daring me to say another word. I'm ashamed of you. I'm not, I said. For once, I'm not ashamed to stand up for myself. He stormed out, but not before saying the most cutting thing a parent could ever say. You're no longer part of this family. I sat in my living room for hours afterward, staring at the spot where he stood. Those words echoed in the air like poison gas, colorless, invisible, but impossible to breathe around. That night, I locked every door and window. Not because I feared for my safety, but because I knew they weren't done. Over the next week, it started with texts. Tyler's sleeping in the car tonight. Hope you're proud. Then came the guilt-tripping emails. We never asked you for much? Then the social media posts. My mom uploaded a picture of the three of them, Dad, Mom, and Tyler, caption. Real family sticks together. Even when one of us has nothing. I didn't comment. Didn't call. Didn't take the bait. But it hurt. What they didn't post were the voicemails. My brother's voice slurred and erratic, accusing me of ruining his life. You think you're better than me, huh? Sitting up there in your ivory tower. You'll come crawling back when no one shows up at your funeral. That was when I changed my number. But it didn't stop. My mom started showing up at my work. Once she sat outside in the parking lot for hours. Another time, she left a gift basket at the front desk with a note. For the son who forgot where he came from. She thought it was cute. I thought it was manipulation wrapped in ribbon. The final straw was when I came home and found Tyler standing in front of my apartment building. Hoodie on. Arms crossed. Eyes wild. What are you doing here? I asked, keeping my distance. Just wanted to see what I wasn't allowed to have, he said, voice like acid. You think this makes you better? You got your little couch and your little lamp and your little life. This isn't about being better. It's about not being your doormat anymore. He laughed. You think you're strong now. Let's see how long you last without a family. And with that, he walked away. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, wondering if I had done the right thing. If maybe I was being too harsh. If maybe I had become cold. But as I lay there, replaying the chaos, the yelling, the threats, the guilt, they all added up to one undeniable truth. I was never their priority. I was their plan B. Their backup. Their safety net. But I wasn't safe anymore. Not with them. And that's when something shifted in me, not anger, not sadness, but clarity. This wasn't just about boundaries. It was about survival. So I pulled out my laptop, opened a blank document, and started making a list. A list of everything I needed to cut them off, for good. That night, the list I started wasn't just about boundaries, it was about freedom. I titled the document, Clean Cut. It sounded harsh, but it wasn't meant to be cruel. It was survival. I wrote down every step I would need to take to separate myself from the mess they kept dragging me into. I wasn't just closing a chapter. I was sealing the door and breaking it shut. Step 1. Change the locks. Even though Tyler never had a key, my parents did. They used to water my plants when I traveled, but now the thought of them having access to my space made my skin crawl. I called the locksmith the next morning and had everything rekeyed, front door, mailbox, even the storage closet downstairs. It was expensive, but the peace of mind was worth every cent. Step 2. Notify the landlord. I sent a formal email explaining the recent events, uninvited guests, unwanted visits, and increasingly threatening behavior. I requested a note in my file that no one but me was allowed to reside in or access the unit. The landlord replied within the hour. Understood. Noted. If anyone attempts to enter or disturb your tenancy, please contact us and the authorities immediately. Step 3. Go dark. I deleted old email accounts that still forwarded junk mail to them. I created a new number under a private plan. I even took down my LinkedIn profile, just in case. My social media pages went on lockdown. Every post was private. Every contact list was scrubbed. I wasn't going to give them breadcrumbs to follow anymore. Step 4. Paper trail. I printed every text, every email, every voicemail transcription. I documented the day my dad stormed into my apartment, the day Tyler showed up uninvited, and even that gift basket my mom left at work. I had photos, timestamps, receipts. And when I had it all neatly organized in a folder labeled Family Incident, I took it straight to a lawyer. You're not the first, she said gently after reviewing everything. People often mistake family for immunity. But abuse is abuse. And what you've documented is more than enough to proceed with a civil protective order if you choose. I didn't need the drama of a courtroom showdown. But I needed protection. So we filed for a no-contact order, not just against Tyler, but against both of my parents. The judge granted a temporary order immediately and scheduled a hearing for a permanent one. The process was draining. The paperwork alone made me feel like I was betraying them, even after everything. But when my lawyer looked at me and said, "You're doing the right thing. You're breaking the cycle," something in me exhaled. Then came the twist I hadn't planned for. A few weeks later, I got an email from Tyler's old landlord. Not mine, his last one, the one who evicted him. Somehow, through the grapevine, he'd heard I was dealing with the same drama. "Hey," it read. "Just wanted to let you know, Tyler used your name on his rental application with us. Claimed he was employed by you. Said he was helping you with your freelance business. That's why we approved him in the first place. I wish we'd called to confirm." I sat there, blinking. Employed by me? Freelance business? That lie alone might have cost the landlord thousands. "I'm compiling documentation for small claims," he added. "Would you be willing to submit a written statement that he was never employed by you?" "Absolutely," I replied. And I did. That statement would come back around in ways I hadn't expected. Tyler, it turned out, had borrowed more than just my name. He'd used my business EIN, from when I freelanced, on multiple credit applications. One company flagged it. Another approved it. There were balances, late fees, and threats of collection. Luckily, I had never signed anything. And because I'd closed the business the year before, I could prove I hadn't operated under that EIN in months. But I still had to submit fraud reports, affidavits, and sit on hold with the IRS for literal hours. I was furious, but oddly calm. This wasn't rage. This wasn't panic. This was clarity. And then came the message that made everything snap into place. One afternoon, a mutual friend, someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year, texted me out of the blue. "Hey, just a heads up. Your mom's been telling people you're mentally unstable. She said you've been paranoid and abusive and that's why Tyler had to move out. Thought you should know." I didn't respond. I just added it to the file. Then I uploaded everything to a secure drive, one for legal, one for backup, and sent copies to both my lawyer and a private investigator I'd hired on retainer. That was when the final play unfolded. Tyler tried to file a small claim against me, alleging that I promised to help him financially, then withdrew support maliciously. Yes, seriously. When I showed up in court, I brought my folder. My lawyer brought her laptop. Tyler brought a hoodie and a paper bag full of unorganized receipts. The judge didn't even look at half of them. After 10 minutes, the case was dismissed. After 15, the judge issued a warning. If I see another frivolous filing like this, I'll be recommending sanctions. Outside the courtroom, Tyler tried to speak. You think this makes you better than me? I didn't say a word. I just walked past him, my lawyer beside me, the echo of the gavel still ringing in my ears. Later that week, I followed up with his former landlord, who confirmed that my statement had led to a formal fraud claim. Tyler was now being investigated for misrepresentation on rental applications and credit fraud. And still, I didn't celebrate. Not really. Because this wasn't revenge. It was survival, again. But I will admit this, it felt good to finally stop apologizing for protecting myself. Because the truth is, I gave them chances. I gave them explanations. I gave them silence. And none of it mattered until I gave them distance. Permanent, documented, unshakable distance. And just like that, the brother who once thought he could live off my kindness, now couldn't even speak my name in court without triggering a file full of receipts. That was the moment I realized I had won. Not because I fought louder, but because I planned better. Because I protected myself with facts. And because, for once, I let my peace speak louder than their chaos. The final hearing for the permanent no-contact order was brief. Efficient. Undramatic. The judge reviewed the documentation, asked a few clarifying questions, and signed the order with the kind of mechanical detachment that comes from seeing far too many broken families. Just like that, it was official. Tyler, my father, and my mother were all legally barred from contacting me, showing up at my residence or workplace, or attempting to involve me in any financial matters. I left the courtroom with no words exchanged, no last looks. Just silence. The kind of silence that fills your lungs after being underwater for too long. For the first time in years, I wasn't bracing for the next voicemail, the next knock at the door, or the next emotional ambush disguised as a family conversation. I walked straight to the bank. Closed every old account. Opened new ones. Then I went to HR at work and updated all my emergency contacts. No family names. Just one close friend, someone who had quietly stood by me through this storm without judgment. The final step? I moved. Not far. Just enough. A quiet apartment a few neighborhoods over, surrounded by tall trees and long sidewalks. Somewhere peaceful, anonymous. I didn't tell anyone. I packed on a Friday, moved on a Saturday, and turned off my phone that entire weekend. When I turned it back on, I had 2 texts from numbers I didn't recognize. "We miss you. Please call us." I blocked both. And then, like a light switch flipping in my soul, the noise was gone. The months that followed felt strange, like my body didn't know what to do without the constant cortisol. I'd wake up expecting chaos and instead hear birds. I'd sit down to eat, waiting for some email bomb to explode, only to finish a meal in peace. Slowly, I started sleeping deeper. Eating better. Breathing easier. Tyler didn't reappear, not directly, at least. But I heard through whispers that he was couch hopping, blaming me for everything, telling anyone who'd listen that I'd abandoned the family. But no one was listening anymore. Not really. The few people who still enabled him were either burned out or growing cautious. His lies were unraveling. One day, out of curiosity, or weakness, I checked one of his old social profiles. It hadn't been updated in months. Just a handful of cryptic posts, and one particularly haunting one. "Some people pretend to be heroes when they're just cowards in clean apartments." I stared at it for a long time. Then I closed the tab and never looked again. The day I truly knew it was over came unexpectedly. I was at a local bookstore, flipping through a collection of essays about toxic family dynamics, when someone tapped my shoulder. It was Mrs. Langston, our neighbor from childhood. She'd known my parents for decades. "Oh, honey," she said, placing a hand on my arm. "I just want to say, I always knew you had your head on straight. I'm sorry you had to go through so much with them." She didn't say more. She didn't need to. That validation, quiet, unexpected, from someone who'd seen it all from the sidelines, meant more than any courtroom verdict. I didn't win by proving them wrong. I won by proving myself right. These days, life is simple. I work. I read. I cook for myself. My new apartment has a little balcony where I drink coffee every morning and watch the sunrise. No yelling. No guilt-tripping. No one treating my peace like it's something I owe them. Sometimes I still think about what might have happened if I'd said yes. If I'd let Tyler in. Would he have ever left? Would I have slowly lost the one safe place I had built for myself? But I don't dwell on that. Because the truth is, I didn't say yes. I finally said no. And that no was the beginning of everything good in my life now. There's a truth no one tells you growing up. Sometimes the hardest people to protect yourself from are the ones who share your last name. When we talk about boundaries, we usually think of them in romantic relationships or the workplace. We don't often think about them in the context of family, because society teaches us that family means forever. That blood is thicker than water, and that being related to someone somehow obligates you to sacrifice your own needs for theirs. But this story taught me something different, something real, something liberating. Family is not a free pass to violate your peace. Setting boundaries with a stranger is relatively easy. But setting them with a parent, a sibling, or someone who raised you, that's emotional warfare. You're not just dealing with the current issue, you're unpacking years of guilt, obligation, manipulation, and fear of being cast out. Every time I said no to my family, it felt like I was pulling bricks off a collapsing wall, knowing it might crush me. But I still did it. Because I had to. Because no one else was going to protect my space if I didn't. Tyler wasn't just asking for help, he was demanding a lifestyle. He wasn't asking for support, he was expecting sacrifice. And the rest of my family had gotten so used to me being the quiet, dependable one that when I finally stood up for myself, they labeled me the villain. That's how deeply ingrained the family narrative was. I was only lovable when I was useful. But love that depends on usefulness isn't love. It's a transaction. And here's the hard part. When you stop participating in that transaction, some people will cut you off. They'll call you selfish. They'll tell others you've changed, that you're cold, that you turned your back on your own. But what they won't say is that you finally chose yourself. They won't say that they left you no choice. Another lesson I learned: you don't need to scream to be powerful. You don't need to argue to be right. There is a quiet strength in simply stepping away, in documenting the truth, in letting facts speak louder than emotion. I didn't fight my family with rage, I fought them with receipts. I didn't need to be louder, I just needed to be smarter. In the past, I thought strength looked like endurance. Holding on, showing up, being the bigger person over and over again. Now I know strength sometimes looks like a locked door, an unanswered call, and the courage to walk away from people you once begged to love you right. The moment I stopped chasing their validation, my healing began. I also learned that protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's necessary. Especially when you've spent years having your peace trampled by people who never cared how it affected you. My apartment wasn't just a space, it was a symbol of everything I had built on my own. Every night I sleep there now, I'm reminded that I am allowed to have a space where I feel safe. I am allowed to say no without explaining myself. I am allowed to put myself first. And so are you. If you're reading this and you've ever been made to feel guilty for choosing yourself, let this be your permission slip. You are not wrong for saying enough. You are not heartless for refusing to be used. You are not broken for needing distance. What you are, is brave. Healing doesn't always look like reconciliation. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like living well without certain people in your life. And sometimes, the people you walk away from will never understand why. That's okay. They don't have to. Their understanding is not a prerequisite for your peace. What matters is that you understand yourself. That you trust your instincts. That you recognize when love is conditional, manipulative, or laced with control. What matters is that you listen to the voice inside you that says, I deserve better, and act on it. I used to believe that walking away meant I failed my family. Now I know that walking away was the first time I truly honored myself. And that, more than anything, is the lesson I carry forward. You don't have to sacrifice your peace for someone else's chaos. Not even if they call it family.